Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and welcome to one of our talks. I'm so thrilled today to be joined by the fantastic Amarr to talk all about his latest show on the CW, 4400. And I wanted to start by talking about the audition and your initial concept of who this character is, because it's a show that intentionally doesn't tell us very much about him at the beginning, because it's clear that it's going to be like a slow and gradual reveal, and every single episode gives a little bit more. And so, in particular, auditioning for a show like that, I was interested in how much detail they were even able to give you, or how much you had to play off of and really interpret this character right at the beginning.
Yeah, I know. I first auditioned for it back in I think February, and it was actually a pretty easy audition. It was the first scene, I guess, for me in the episode where I talk, and it was just one line, and I was like, okay, this is pretty. I mean, it's funny. It was pretty simple, but I feel like those are usually the hardest ones to do because it was just one line, and I'm basically having to get casted off of this one line. So. I know with that was the first scene that I had to do. And then the second scene that they gave me, it was just some scenes with Mildred, just to like see the dynamic between us. And as the season goes on, you'll start to see, you know, our relationship progress. So yeah, it was actually pretty cool. It was a pretty cool audition process.
Yeah. And obviously, your character is coming from a completely different time period and has suddenly propelled forward into the present day.
Yeah.
And so, with that in mind, did that inform a lot of the way that you worked with the text and the scripts and the dialogue and the way that he speaks? And how did you find that aspect of him as a character?
Yeah, I know with this character, I wanted him to, since he doesn't really talk as much, I've looked at him as like an oracle that can, tell the future. That's his power. So with him, I wanted him to, everything that he said meant something. And then also the process that I like, kind of went through. I looked at a lot of, different movies like Scarface and, older, even though I mean, to some people it might not be that old. But for me, a lot of older movies and just dynamic characters throughout the years, like Heath Ledger's Joker, and like kind of, I guess, quote unquote, out of pocket characters that have, been pretty prominent throughout, film's history. So I try to, go back in time, try to find like different things.
And what was your process when it came to figuring out a lot of his mannerisms as well? Because he's more of a still character. He's not necessarily moving around a lot in the same way that he's not necessarily talking very much at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I know with him, I mean, as I'm sure a lot of people would be, when you're, coming from the 1930s and then you're suddenly in 2021, you're a little scared. So with him, I know something that I usually do if people catch this, I usually try to hold my hands like together, just to show like nothing too crazy because I can't really say too much. So I try to do as much as I can with, my hands and then different things with like my speech patterns. There might be like a sentence and I try to like stop a little bit, tweak it a little bit. So I, show just the difference between him and everyone else from, the 70s, 50s, 2005.
And
Yeah.
obviously, you're playing amongst a lot of castmates who are all playing from different time periods to each other as well. And
Yeah.
that's so interesting what you were saying about the pacing of his speech, even, because we talk so much faster now than people used to. And so, how did a lot of elements with the mannerisms that you were all bringing, the way that you were all working with dialogue and speech, and even the way that the script is written very differently for each of your characters' dialogue as well, really inform the dynamic when you were all working on scenes together?
It's actually really fun to experience. Like if you see a scene with Hayden and LaDonna. LaDonna, she's from 2015, and then Hayden from the 30s. It's just funny to see like that dynamic between them. But I know with Hayden, I feel like with him, just being around different people as the season goes on, you'll start to see him become more, I guess, 2021 ish to, I guess, become more with the times. But for now, since we're on, I guess, the fourth, fifth episode, he's starting to ease into those speech patterns and ease into like the more relevancy.
Yeah. And was there a challenge in playing a character that is so quiet at the beginning and really is just he's sitting there observing a lot of what's going on around him, and so I imagine that slightly changes up the way that you're working as a character and working on a lot of your scenes as well, just because it's asking something completely different from you as a performer.
Yeah, at first, it actually was pretty easy because I only have one line in the very first episode. So I was like, oh, yeah, this is cool. Then the second episode, it was a lot more. So I was like, okay, I got to, dig down and try to find and figure this out. But I know with just I guess the more recent episodes that we've been doing, I would say it has been a little tricky because I feel like for me, I want to express, myself, or I try to put myself into these characters, but Hayden is so unlike me. And, me being in 2021, Amarr, and then going to Hayden from the 30s, it's like, okay, I can't say this way. So I got to say it this way, or I can't express this type of emotion in the same way that I guess an average person would do. So it is tricky, but as time has gone on, I've figured out there's some things that at least make them a little more relevant.
And because what you were saying before about how he's assimilating to the present day a little bit more episode by episode, has that been kind of an easy progress and process for you to figure out how he's gradually kind of assimilating into present day? What are some of the things that he's picking up from people around him, or is a lot of that about playing the scenes and really just seeing what feels like the right fit on the day in the moment?
I feel like it's a mix of both. I feel like, I can only do so much with what I'm given, with the script. So I try, my best to like, I mean, me and the writers, we try our best to just try to find, just I guess distinguish just the differences between the very first episode and I guess the fifth. We're now on the 12th episode now, so it's like it's a story, and you want to just show the character development as the season goes on. So I know with him, it has been a little tricky, but I feel like he's so I guess he's so different than everyone else that it kind of makes it a little easier because I feel like no one would really actually know how a person from the 30s would technically act. So I could get away with a little bit of things.
And what were some of the conversations that you were able to have with the creative team and with the writers early on? Because, you know, to your point as well, when there's a lot of information teased out about a character and you started shooting earlier this year, you obviously don't have the full scripts for the entire season on a network show. And so how were they able to help you fill in some of the gaps, and what were some of the most important things for you to know going in?
I know back in March, I think when I first got it, they gave me a pretty much a rundown of Hayden's character arc throughout the season. And so I was kind of informed of where the character would go, but I wasn't necessarily, they like to keep things on, the down low, the hush. So I didn't really know how they would execute it. But, since we're on 12, I'm starting to see like, oh my gosh, that made sense all the way back from season one. So it's like I'm learning as the season goes on, which is so cool. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we've tried to, like, I'll ask some questions about different things like, hey, would Hayden be this excited about this certain, I don't know how much I can give out here, this certain I guess, bar, I'll say that. Or would he be more relaxed since he doesn't exactly know too much? And then they would just tell me, oh, no, he would definitely feel this way or he would act this way. So, they help me. I try to ask as many questions as I can.
And speaking to that journey where you're learning more about him as a character every episode, has there been a point yet, because you're still shooting the series at the moment, has there been a point at which you really felt like you've solidified it, you're totally inhabiting that character, and you know how he's going to respond to situations now, or is that still part of the process episode by episode?
I feel like now me and Hayden, at first, if you would have asked me back in like episode 3, I would not be able to tell you. But I feel like now, me and Hayden, I know exactly where he is in his mind and his state of mind. So I feel like it's so much easier now. So with him, I know there's different situations where things happen. end the season, and he's affected by it, very, very affected by it. So, me, I guess, adding my own personality to it, I'm like, okay, I could see why he would feel this way. Because I've grown with them. And as the season goes on, I feel like we'll all just grow with all of the characters, but of course, Hayden.
Yeah. And is it a really interesting dynamic in working with the rest of the cast on a lot of those ensemble scenes and establishing so many character relationships that are existing for the first time because you're essentially playing against characters that have never met each other and don't have any backstory and don't have any history, which is a really interesting place to come from in terms of character dynamics with everybody that you're playing against.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. It's really cool. I know, like, I see a lot of people on Twitter. I guess last night they were talking about Dr. Andre and Hayden and how, as the season goes on, we'll start to have that relationship. Like, I guess father son type of relationship. And, with it's really cool, like just seeing LaDonna and Shanice have, their relationships, and Hayden and Mildred. Like Hayden's from the 30s and then Mildred's from the 70s. It's actually really cool to see just so many different people that I guess never would really be around each other, just have interactions and I guess grow and try to figure out, how are we going to get out of this hotel? How are we going to live? What's next? It's a really cool concept.
And he's a character who it feels like his history has given him a lot of reasons not to trust people and situations around him
Yeah.
easily and ready. And yet you've done a really beautiful job at, that gradual journey, particularly when we look at his relationship with Millie and gradually starting to let people in. And so how did you want to set about crafting that into him as a character and creating those very realistic situations where he has walls up against him, but also the moments where he allows them to come down a little bit, but piece by piece?
Yeah, you'll definitely learn a lot about, why he doesn't trust people as much in episode 6. But I feel like with you see it in the first episode when he offers Mildred the water, and with the different characters, I feel like as time goes on, I feel like you kind of have to trust at least somebody. You can't just be so much to yourself when, everybody here is in the same type of situation and they're all trying to break out and they're all trying to figure out, like, where did my life go? People from the 50s, like, oh, where did my mom go? Where are they? People from the 70s, or where did my sister go? Different things like that. So I know with Hayden, I feel like it's a journey of, I have to trust at least one person, and these people at first, he doesn't really trust them as much, but he finds out they are really good people, at least most of them.
And because you were just bringing up how a lot of the characters just instantly or immediately trying to get back to where they were, with Hayden, did you view it in the same way? Because there's that moment where they're given the chance to go back to the location where they all arrived from, and he's the person to say, I don't know, I'm not going, like, it's important for me to stay here. And I thought that was a really interesting track for your character.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because with Hayden, since he's able to tell the future, I feel like it wasn't said, but I feel like he already knew like what was gonna happen. He knew it wasn't gonna necessarily work, and I love that with Hayden. Anyways, it's a very cool but touching and sad story. Just with him, he knows he doesn't have really anybody. Him and Andre, like everyone that he did know or once know, they're gone. So with him, I know in that specific episode, he actually lets Mariah in to meet Shanice because he has a vision. And in that point in time, he didn't necessarily want to tell too many people about his power. And even though he, let I guess Mildred and a couple of people know. But back to your question though, yeah, I feel like it was really cool though. Just seeing, how he is so, I guess, okay with what the time is now. I mean, at the same time, I feel like he really has to be. He has to learn to adapt because he can't go back to Detroit in the 1930s. He has to move on. So yeah, it's cool.
And with that ability to see things in the future and gradually starting to say those things out loud, how have you wanted to evolve his relationship with the discovery of his ability to do that? And then, even just opening up to allow other people inside of that as well. And when he reveals information.
Yeah. I feel like with him, it was something that I guess was kind of scary at first. He didn't really know why he was seeing these visions, and when they would actually come true, he's like, okay, how I guess can I use these abilities to help people? And I feel like that's a journey that he I guess it's like when any I guess superhero movie when the character's finding out, okay, I have these powers and what can I do with these powers? And I feel like that's the same exact journey with him. So as time goes on, he becomes more comfortable with the abilities that he has, and he tries to help the other fellow 4400.
When it came to playing the scene where it's his birthday as well, there's obviously a lot of mixed emotions for him there. And so, how did you set about figuring what his response and what his reaction? Because again, he's like, I hate birthdays, I don't like celebrating them, but then he's begrudgingly, willingly to at the end.
Yeah, I feel like I mean with him anyways, yeah, birthday is not really his thing. Because for a very long time he was institutionalized and he would celebrate his birthdays pretty much and like just strapped down and being a test subject. So for him, I guess as time went on, birthdays weren't really his thing. But with the 4400, just seeing all of these good people and seeing people that actually care about him on his birthday enough to even throw him a surprise party. It was something that, reading the script, I was like, okay, I at first I wanted to be a little more to myself, like, should I play like, oh, I don't really want this at all? But as I talked to one of the writers of the show, and they were like, actually, I feel like now he's become so much more comfortable with, who he is in his place with the 4400 that he's like, okay, I accept this. Let's have fun and let's have a lobster.
And because he is someone who, as you mentioned, has been institutionalized in the past and is held against his will, and now you have him alongside all these other characters, and the setting's nicer, but they're still being held against their will. And so, how did that play into some of the parallels you thought about for your character?
Yeah, I know. We'll definitely talk more about it in I guess actually the fifth and sixth episode that's about to come on. But I know with these more recent episodes, yeah, I mean it's definitely tough for this character. Like he talks about it in I think the third episode, just how he was locked up like you said back then in the 30s, and then he's locked pretty much locked up now, but it is in a nicer area. But it's still that same feeling of can I really trust these people? Like, because for him, he doesn't really like authority. He doesn't like doctors and he does not like authority because for him in his time, people that did have authority, they abused it. So it's something that he has to, figure out and he is figuring out.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's that really telling line where he's talking about how he can't eat any of the food and there were the snack bars that he really liked, but they've taken them away. And it's just like that idea of having a small piece of comfort that he could latch onto. And so do you kind of see him as someone who really just looks for the small comforts that he can grab onto as a way of trying to create some sort of safe space for himself?
Yeah, I know for him, well, exactly that. For him, I feel like it's the best time bars and it's chess. Because back in his time, chess was his escape from, don't want to give too much away, but from different things that were happening around him. So I feel like with him, I mean, chess is still alive and he has his chessboard that Millie gives him. And then he also has, the best time bars. And when that, of course, when that's taken away, he's like, okay, I still have chess, but I feel like I'm losing a part of myself. At least that's how I at least perceive it from his point of view.
And how in depth did you feel like you were really able to get or wanted to get when it came to developing your character's backstory? Because there are so many rich details that you can play off of, and even the small detail of, okay, he's a chess prodigy, and we know that gives you so many different things that you can layer. And the incarceration, again, there's so much to play off of even just one line of dialogue in the script and what that gives you.
Yeah, I know with the chess, like I said, like that's something that I guess has become, I guess, a part of him. And it was his escape. So with the chess, I know with that, it's something that is so important to him, I guess, is like our phones, how important that is to us with all of our information. I feel like the chess pieces represent different information or different pieces of information of who he is. And which I mean, I like to think of it as that. But with in depth though, going into in depth with just the character and different things like that, I feel like that's the writers, me and all of them, like we just try to figure out different things that could tell a story, tell the best story that we possibly could. With we didn't really want to get too much into it, and the I guess episodes that were, I guess, focused on others. And then in the sixth episode, we'll definitely break it down. You'll start to see why he, I guess, acts the way that he acts towards people and, to with himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've also recently been in the Netflix series Colin in Black and White, which is a really, really beautiful piece of storytelling. Did you feel like that really gave you a totally different space to kind of play around as a performer? And what were some of the unique or the new things that you feel like that allowed you to stretch within yourself?
Yeah, I know with Eddie, it's definitely different than Hayden. I would say that. With Eddie, I feel like that's such a fun character. And I mean, for real, he was kind of like a piece of me that is like, you know, oh, I'm focused on this. It was like a very egotistical type of character. And for me, I don't feel like I'm like an egomaniac at all. But with him, wide receiver football, oh, girls are gonna fawn over me. Like that was his big thing. And it was very fun to just be able to play that. And also, of course, tell, Colin's story or help tell it.
Yeah. And you've been in the industry for so many years at this point with so much experience. And there was something interesting that you've mentioned about how it's not just the character that gives you an opportunity to learn something, but it's the production itself. And so looking at the 4400, what are those things that have really kind of helped you to develop and grow the way that you work as an actor, even beyond the character?
Yeah, I feel like with the other actors on, our set is they helped me a lot. Like just being around them, I talk about them to my family, my friends all the time. Like I truly feel like these are one of the best people that I've ever worked with, honestly. I've been acting, I've been in this business for 17 years now. And these people, they just their work ethic and when they come to work, they're just so professional. And then when we're, on set, it's we got to get our job done. And I feel like it's so quick pace. And that really helps me step my game up, just being around people that are already like, I'm here, I'm blessed to be here. Now let's get to what we're getting paid to do.
Well, I'm so excited to watch the rest of the season of this and to see all of the details that you obviously can't share right yet. But
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
really great watching you in the first few episodes. Thank you so much, Amar.
Thank you so much.